the end of the time permitted for the speech portion of this intervention is completed. However, the honourable member for Calgary Nose Hill will have 5 minutes for questions and comments. I'm sure the House will be interested to know that that time will be available when the House next gets back to debate on the questions. We'll now go to statements by members. Déclaration des députés. L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Repentigny. Fighting climate change is the challenge of the century, Mr. Speaker. On April 22nd, we'll be celebrating Earth Day, and we need to remember that, beyond rhetoric, Canada is on the wrong side of history. 10 years ago, this year, the government promised at the G20 to eliminate and phase out fossil fuel subsidies. Yet, not only has Ottawa not even started, but since 2015, it has committed an additional $19 billion to oil. In fact, Canada is dragging the planet down. Every year, the Global Footprint Network estimates that, as of August on, humanity exceeds the planet's ability to absorb pollution and lives on credit. If the world kept pace with Canada, that day would come as early as March, and we'd spend 3/4 of the year mortgaging our future. Something Quebec must note, Mr. Speaker, Canada is an oil state and an adversary when it comes to battling climate change.
For Steveston, Richmond East.
Mr. Speaker, let me give a big shout out to Corey Parker and Jim Dixon, both in Ottawa for the International Association of Firefighters Annual Legislative Conference. Corey serves as president of the Richmond Firefighters Association and Jim as its union treasurer. Both are passionate advocates for their fellow firefighters in Richmond and right across Canada. And I know, Mr. Speaker, I'll likely see them flipping pancakes or burgers in support for the many local organizations in Richmond. Mr. Speaker, it is truly my privilege to stand in this House to recognize and thank Corey Parker and Jim Dixon and all first responders for their commitment and service and for all that they do in keeping Canadians safe.
Honourable member for Saskatoon Grasswood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On average, there are 15 new cases diagnosed every day in Saskatchewan with cancer. For 85 years, the Saskatchewan Cancer Agency has provided leading-edge cancer treatment, prevention, and education programs, along with world-class research for the people of Saskatchewan. But in January, a new era of support for cancer care was ushered in with the launch of the Cancer Foundation of Saskatchewan. The foundation is the fundraising partner of the Saskatchewan Cancer Agency. Every dollar raised by the Cancer Foundation of Saskatchewan will stay in the province of Saskatchewan, supporting cancer patients for treatment and care. I want to wish the Board of Directors, along with the staff of the new foundation, the very best as they begin their work raising money to support cancer care in my province of Saskatchewan.
L'honorable député de Saskatchewan.
The honourable member for Sudbury.
And former coach to congratulate the Sudbury Lady Wolves Midget AA hockey team for winning the gold medal at the Ontario Provincial Championships this past weekend. The Lady Wolves finished the tournament with a perfect 6-0 record, besting the Stony Creek Sabres in the finals. But the Lady Wolves had already punched their ticket to participate at the National Championships as the hosts of the ESO Cup. From April 21st to 27th, Sudbury Lady Wolves will be hosting the Stony Creek Sabres, St. Albert Slash of the Pacific region, Saskatoon Stars of the Western region, Halifax Fire of the Atlantic region. En fin de semaine.
On the weekend, the team representing Quebec will be determined.
Great season, and thank you to the girls for making us so proud. Go Wolves, go!
The honourable member for North Island Powell River.
The Battle of Vimy Ridge remains a defining moment in Canadian history, a battle whose outcome helped shape the identity of our nation. In 1917, more than 15,000 Canadians stormed Vimy Ridge in defense of peace and freedom. Working together for the first time, the 4 Canadian divisions demonstrated incredible discipline and bravery. They accomplished what no other Allied force had yet been able to do, but they did so at great cost. Today, as we recognize the 102nd anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge, we remember the nearly 3,600 Canadians killed and the more than 7,000 wounded in the name of freedom. We also reflect on the work that Canadian Armed Forces continues to do to bring stability and peace across the world. The service and sacrifice of military personnel and their loved ones at home is recognized, respected, and admired, and will never be forgotten, lest we forget.
The honourable member for Calgary Centre.
Mr. Speaker, one of the reasons I decided to run in 2015 was I felt the Conservatives had taken Calgary's vote for granted. I thought this was wrong. I thought it was about time that Calgarians got the fourth largest city in Calgary received the decent funding they deserved. In half the time, our federal Liberal government has brought nearly twice as much federal infrastructure funding compared to the previous Conservative government. Yes, in almost 4 years, we have nearly doubled the amount that the Conservatives invested in Calgary infrastructure over the entire 10-year mandate. This means federal support for things like the LRT Green Line, the Glamorgan Affordable Housing Project, the National Music Centre, the Marda Loop Sea Space, flood mitigation, and more. These investments that directly impact Calgarians and help us continue to build a better city.
Excellent.
Honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands, and Rideau Lakes. Order.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals are continuing their campaign against rural Canadians and responsible firearm owners with their backdoor gun registry, Bill C-71. They're targeting Canadians who have passed background checks, taken training courses, paid fees, and followed the rules. But the Liberals have failed to address gun violence in cities and the scourge of guns being smuggled into Canada. Yesterday, we learned the Liberals are taking steps to introduce a handgun ban in Canada. Make no mistake, this bill is just the first step, and a re-elected Liberal government would expand their gun ban. Hunters and sport shooters in my riding have long been at the forefront of conservation and are the greatest stewards of the bounty which we receive from the land. They have been villainized as backwards and dangerous from day one by this Liberal government. This backdoor gun registry would increase the cost of doing business for small retailers and punish law-abiding Canadians and do nothing to address gun violence. Conservatives will scrap Bill C-71 and stand up for firearms owners.
Honourable member for Fundy Royal.
Mr. Speaker, Sia Bulela Mandela, great-grandson of the late Nelson Mandela, made his first stop on his cultural inclusion and political affairs tour to Fundy Royal's town of Hampton. This could not have been more fitting, as it is the birthplace of John Peters Humphrey, who devoted his life to the advancement of human rights and, in fact, helped draft the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. While we were gathered at Credo, a monument to honor John Peters Humphrey, he shared these words of inspiration. Human nature is to disagree. Our collective responsibility, regardless of race, creed, or nationality, is to find common ground to build on the foundations laid by historical figures such as John Peters Humphrey and Nelson Mandela to build a more peaceful world. Thank you, Mr. Mandela, for reminding us that the most ordinary among us can indeed achieve extraordinary outcomes for humankind. Your visit and your message will be long remembered by the people of Hampton. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Excellent.
The honourable member for Fredericton.
Each year, Christie Lake Kids enriches the lives of hundreds of vulnerable children and youth. This safe, inclusive space gives kids the opportunity to make art, play music, and enjoy time together at a beautiful summer camp. Sunday, at the 8th Annual Parliamentary Basketball Tournament, teams of MPs, staff, and media came together to raise money for Christie Lake Kids. The consolation game went down to the wire, with our NDP colleagues eking out a gritty 1-point victory over the press gallery pundits, yet we haven't read any stories about it.
Fake news.
Down 13-0 to our Conservative opponents, only 4 minutes into the final, my friend, the member from Central Nova, and I subbed ourselves off the floor, spurring a Liberal charge, which resulted in a thrilling back-and-forth, thrilling final. The result, a 2-point victory for the Liberal team, hope, hoops, and hard work. Mr. Speaker, we're proud to have reclaimed the trophy, but what all parliamentarians can celebrate together is that our collective efforts help raise $25,000 for Christie Lake Kids to help transform lives.
Member for Abbotsford.
Mr. Speaker, this is a letter from Maureen of Abbotsford. She writes,
My husband Darren works very long hours in sales to support our family. Last week when he received his paycheck, he was absolutely shocked at the amount that was taken off. Frankly, we both feel taxed to death. As the years have gone by, raising our family has been a struggle. Both Darren and I have worked 2 jobs to support our family. We've both worked long hours just to get by. Once our children became adults, we thought money wouldn't be so tight, but it still is, because we pay more taxes than ever before. Neither of us have work pensions, and finding extra money each month to put away is becoming extremely difficult with the cost of living so high. Between income taxes, carbon taxes, gas taxes, property taxes, GST, PSD, and all the other taxes we pay, I'm writing this letter to say, enough taxes. Sincerely, Maureen. Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Brampton North.
On April 14th, Sikhs across the world will celebrate Vaisakhi, the most momentous holiday in the Sikh faith. Vaisakhi commemorates the birth of the Khalsa Panth, the launch of a religious community that many in this chamber and across this country are proud to be a part of. Sikh philosophy and teachings stress the importance of noble deeds, selfless giving, and sacrifice. We are taught to treat everyone as equals, regardless of gender, race, or faith, and to stand up for those values whenever they are challenged. I'm so thankful to live in a country that recognizes its diversity, that can appreciate that Sikh values can in fact be Canadian values too. A country wherein members of parliament can share celebrations of Vaisakhi through an annual Vaisakhi on the Hill Akhand Path. Diversity is our country's strength, and I look forward to continuing the essential work to move that reality forward. Vaisakhi diyan lakh lakh vadaiyan.
Here, here. The honourable member for Winnipeg Centre.
I would like to take a few moments to recognize the life of Jamie Adeo Jr. Jamie was a 17-year-old. The people who loved him most nicknamed him Jim Boy. He was soft-spoken, shy, loving, courteous, and dutiful. He was the pride of his mother, Mel, and father, Jim Sr. He was set to graduate from Tech Voc High School in Winnipeg Centre. He dreamed of going to Red River College to become an executive chef. His family ran a Filipino bakery, which eventually it was planned he would one day run himself. On Sunday evening on March 3rd, Jamie was killed during a home invasion by someone high on meth. He died defending his grandmother. He was at home studying for school exams. Over the past month, thousands of community members have come together to remember a life that touched so many and to demand an end to the violence which is reaching across Canada. This is a call to action for a safer society. We need more addiction treatment and greater security. The memory of Jim Boy deserves no less.
The honourable member for Moose Jaw, Lake Centre, Lanigan.
Mr. Speaker, everyone in this room knows that Canadian farmers produce the highest quality canola in the world. It is one of the most important crops to the Western Canadian economy. And that's why it was so shocking when we learned that China, to whom we export 40% of our canola, has blocked shipments. What is even more shocking, though, Mr. Speaker, is the Liberal government reaction to this crisis. They continue to block our attempts to get answers from Canadians on this very important issue. It is crystal clear that the issue is not about the quality of our canola. The real issue is this Prime Minister's weak leadership on the international stage. Mr. Speaker, this Prime Minister needs to start taking this issue seriously, rather than spending all his time and attention on the SNC scandal and cover-up. The 43,000 canola producers deserve better than this.
The Honourable Member for Pontiac.
Today I join so many Pontiac constituents and the entire country in mourning the loss of Canadian heart surgeon and former Senator Dr. Wilbert Keon. In 1935, Dr. Keon was born in the town of Sheenborough and became the pride of the Upper Pontiac long before he was awarded the Order of Ontario and the Order of Canada, and well prior to his appointment to the Senate in 1990. He founded the University of Ottawa Heart Institute and performed over 10,000 open heart operations, pioneering many new surgical techniques, and in 1986, he became the first Canadian surgeon to implant an artificial heart in a human. His legend only grew from there. As Senator, he helped establish the Canadian Institutes of Health Research and worked to build Genome Canada, and he also played a key role during the SARS epidemic. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, let's pay tribute today to one of the greatest former citizens of this region. He is survived by his wife and children.
Know that the riding of Pontiac is reflecting on a great leader who will always be known as a good Pontiac lad.
The honourable member for Hamilton Mountain.
Mr. Speaker, Canadian workers, retirees and seniors hope their lives would improve with the election of a new government in 2015. Unfortunately, they have been let down. While small changes to the GIS were helpful, changes to the CPP will cost workers a lot more and don't take a full effect for another 40 years. Not much help for these in need today. Promises were made to fix Canada's bankruptcy and insolvency laws, to avoid another tragedy like Nortel or Sears, have not been met. Instead, we have an industry minister who likes to monitor the situation, a seniors minister who prefers endless consultation over meaningful action, and a prime minister who tells Sears workers facing loss of pensions, benefits, and severance pay they can rely on EI and CPP. Shame. In the coming months, many more promises will be made. Again, Canadians will be told that help is on the way. But as seen in the recent budget, this government has mastered the art of making bold gestures without any concrete plans to back them up. Canadian workers and retirees and seniors need action to protect their pensions, not more empty promises. That's right. I hope
The honourable member for Barrie Innisfil.
Mr. Speaker, nothing says working hard for the 1% and those working hard to keep their 1% like giving $12 million to a company that earned $3.4 billion in profits in 2018. And who can blame Loblaws, Mr. Speaker, when Dalton McGuinty and Kathleen Wynne were handing out cash to corporations for their failed green energy policies? Companies were only happy to stand in line for taxpayer cash to pay for things that didn't have to come out of their pockets, but did come out of the pockets of hardworking Ontarians. You see, Mr. Speaker, the exact same failed McGuinty-Wynne playbook from the Liberals in Ontario that caused years of structural debt and deficits, an embarrassingly ineffective green energy plan, is the exact same miserable playbook these Liberals are using, and so is the Prime Minister. Let this sink in. The Liberals gave Loblaws, a company with a market cap of $24 billion and earned a profit of $3.4 billion in 2018, $12 million of our tax dollars to replace their fridges. You can't make this stuff up.
The honourable member for Vimy. Mr. Speaker, over 100 years ago, on a hill in France, 4 divisions of the Canadian Corps, including the 4th Battalion of the Royal 22nd Regiment, which is in my riding of Vimy, fought for the first time as one. They were extraordinary Canadians from all corners of the country. Today, as we come together to commemorate the 102nd anniversary of the Battle of Vimy Ridge, we remember the thousands of Canadians who made the ultimate sacrifice far from the coasts of Canada. Let us pay tribute to them on the anniversary of a pivotal battle that has marked our history forever.
As a member of Parliament for the riding of Vimy, I encourage us today and every day to pay tribute to every Canadian who answered the call to serve and sacrifice at the Battle of the Vimy Ridge. Lest we forget. N'oublions jamais.
Bravo.
Merci, monsieur.
Questions orales, oral questions. The honourable member for Milton.
Mr. Speaker, for 2 months, the Prime Minister has been avoiding accountability in his involvement in the SNC-Lavalin corruption scandal, which has been engulfing his government now for months. Now he has indicated that he wishes to sue the Leader of the Opposition for the criticisms that the leader made. Well, I say, Mr. Speaker, let's get the ball rolling. And the reason being is, quite frankly, these allegations can be tested in court, a place that the Prime Minister cannot shut down. So quickly, Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister tell us when he will commence the action?
The Honourable Prime Minister.
We put the Leader of the Opposition on notice because he was making false statements and misleading Canadians. The Opposition Leader and his party have a history of making false and defamatory statements. In December, he had to retract defamatory online statements he made against the Minister of Innovation. He has done this repeatedly and now pretends that it is somehow virtuous for him to mislead Canadians.
Order. The honourable member for Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I have a piece of paper, too. It's some misinformation that the Prime Minister actually gave, both during the election last time and most recent. Let's start with balanced budgets, maybe electoral reform, maybe a $10 billion deficit, all things that were promised to Canadians and told that would happen that didn't come about. And then we have the most recent crucial issues. For example, the Prime Minister indicating that the former Attorney General never went to him about her concerns. We know that to be patently false, Mr. Speaker, so let's test this in court. When will the Prime Minister start this action?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
It's not the first time that the Conservative leader and his party have misled Canadians with false and defamatory statements. As I've said, he's been forced to retract or cease making...
Order, order, order. The Honourable Member for Carleton will come to order. The Honourable Member for Carleton will come to order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, as I said, he's been forced to retract or cease making defamatory statements against members of our government repeatedly. The reason we put him on notice is because he's doing so again. Mr. Speaker, the members of the opposition shouldn't have to mislead Canadians in order to make political points. They should stick to the facts. That's what Canadians deserve.
For Milton.
So, Mr. Speaker, just some free advice for the Prime Minister. Yes, there has been a notice sent over, and the Leader of the Opposition has indicated that he stands by every single word in that press release. That is a problem for the Prime Minister. So I guess, Mr. Speaker, the ball is actually in his court. Now, he can stand up here and wave his arms around and talk about the fact that he's putting us on notice, but why doesn't he actually show us? Let's get it on, Prime Minister.
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Putting the Conservative leader on notice is something we did because the truth was important. And here is the truth. After being asked directly to condemn white supremacists yesterday, the Leader of the Opposition...
Order. I had no trouble hearing the question. I should be able to hear the answer equally well. Order. The Right Honourable Prime Minister has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, after being asked directly to condemn white supremacists yesterday, the Leader of the Opposition not only refused to do so, he refused to even say the words. So I will give him another opportunity to do so today, and through his Deputy Leader. Will he denounce white supremacy, the alt-right movement, and finally apologize for sharing a platform with them?
The Honourable Member.
L'Honorable.
The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, on March 29th, our leader issued an official statement in a press release saying that the Prime Minister had led a campaign of political interference, that he had personally given orders, that he had denied the truth, and that as a result, the Prime Minister had lost the moral authority to govern. Our leader maintains everything he said in that statement. He even repeated it last night. If the Prime Minister could show some leadership, would he at least follow through on this so that we can hear the full truth? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Well, the full truth is that we put the Leader of the Opposition on notice because he had made false and misleading statements to Canadians. The Leader of the Opposition and his party have a history of false and defamatory statements. In December, he had to withdraw some statements that he had made online about the Minister of Innovation. He did that repeatedly, and now he's claiming that it's virtuous for him to mislead Canadians. But it's never virtuous to mislead Canadians, as the Leader of the Opposition did. Order. The Honourable Member for Richmond North Athabasca. Mr. Speaker, what's ironic is that it's the Liberal Prime Minister who himself violated the Conflict of Interest Act 4 times, and now he is trying to sermonize to parliamentarians in this House. This Prime Minister says that what our leader has said is false, but he reiterated all of that last night. If he wants to show some leadership, will he follow through on this notice so that he can testify under oath before the courts? Yes or no? Right Honourable Prime Minister. We put the Conservative leader on notice because the truth is important. And the truth is that after he was asked if he would call out white supremacist groups yesterday, not only did he refuse to do so, he also refused even to say the words. We'll give the Conservatives another opportunity to condemn white supremacist movements. Will they denounce them and apologize for having shared a platform with those who believe in that?
The honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan, was yelling throughout the answer. He knows it's against the rules to interrupt.
The honourable member for Burnaby South.
Mr. Speaker, a new report points out that the Prime Minister's actions against former senior ministers is unprecedented in Canadian history. It hasn't been seen in a century. Senior former Liberal staffer Penny Colonette points out how this was highly unusual. The women ministers who spoke up about the truth about interference in criminal prosecution were kicked out for speaking up. Liberals claim that there's nothing to see here. Clearly there is, and Canadians disagree with this government. Why won't this government call a public inquiry?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as everyone well knows, we spent many, many weeks working to try and find a positive resolution on this issue. This is something that we understand had very strong opinions on multiple sides, and we wanted to work forward and demonstrate that we truly believe that differences of opinion and diversity is a source of strength and resilience for an organization and for a country. That is what we worked very hard on. Unfortunately, we couldn't get to that place. The will of caucus was clear that those individuals could no longer be in caucus. Mr. Speaker, at the same time, we're going to continue focusing on what matters to Canadians.
The honourable member for Burnaby South. Well, speaking of the truth, the Prime Minister said today, you can't lie to Canadians. Sure, but the Prime Minister's own story has been changing since day one, and he himself has admitted that his story was not accurate. If the Prime Minister thinks that Canadians want to know the truth, why is he refusing to launch a public inquiry? Very Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, we've always been very, very clear on this issue. From the very beginning, we've said that we'd do two things. We would defend jobs across the country for Canadian workers, and we will respect both our institutions and the rule of law. And that is exactly what we've done. We have great respect for the work that our parliamentary committees do, and we also respect the ethics commissioner who is investigating. We will always participate in these investigations, but we know that we are defending our institutions on this side of the House. Honourable member for Burnaby South. High-speed internet and cell phone service is a necessity, but access is far from reliable or affordable. A single mother told me that she pays $102 a month for unreliable service. People deserve a government that has the courage to stand up to rich telecommunications companies. When will the Prime Minister have the courage to stand up for ordinary people and to lower these costs? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. I'd like to underline that we have a Minister of Rural Communities who ensures that we are getting high-speed internet across the country. We're continuing to work to invest all across the country so that we can have this very essential service to all Canadians. We want it to be high quality, and we want it to be established all across the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Burnaby South.
After the biggest drug money laundering case in Canadian history, the federal government is still not doing its part. Expert Peter German's report points out that no federal resources are being used. Literally, in the federal money laundering unit, there is no one working on money laundering. No wonder there's so few federal prosecutions. Drug money laundering is fueling organized crime and putting communities at risk. Why have the Liberals failed to act?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
We see the consequence what happens when members opposite don't want to talk about the budget and don't even want to read the budget. They don't notice what's in the budget, including unprecedented measures to move forward on countering money laundering and the impacts of organized crime in the housing sector, particularly in British Columbia. We continue to work with our provincial counterparts and indeed with partners right across the country and around the world to crack down on money laundering, on tax evasion and avoidance, and make sure that our system works for everyone.
The Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is threatening a lawsuit to shut down the opposition from holding him accountable for his attempts to interfere in the criminal prosecution of SNC-Lavalin. He says it's libelous to say the former Attorney General told him and his top officials that their actions were, quote, political interference and, quote, entirely inappropriate. But the taped phone call, texts, and notes, they show that's all true. Canadians look forward to the Prime Minister being forced to testify in open court under oath. When will the Prime Minister follow through on his threat?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, let's be clear. To ensure that Canadians could hear the truth, the Prime Minister waived solicitor-client privilege as well as cabinet confidence. These meetings took place at the Justice Committee. They took place in public, and that's exactly why the member is able to refer to them, because it's important that Canadians be able to decide for themselves. Yes, Mr. Speaker, we have put the Leader of the Official Opposition on notice, and that's because he is misleading Canadians. Mr. Speaker, this is not the first time we have done so. We have done so previously because he was misleading Canadians when it came to the Minister of Innovations. Once he was put on notice, he deleted and retracted those comments. Once again, on March 31st, he did the same thing after...
Honourable Member for Lakeland.
Indeed, let's be clear. The Prime Minister says it's libelous for the opposition leader to say the former Attorney General was pressured by him and then fired for resisting. But on the taped call, the clerk says the Prime Minister was, quote, determined in a firm frame of mind, that they were on a collision course and that he was going to get it done one way or another. When will the Prime Minister follow through on his threat to sue, or will he just finally admit that everything the opposition leader said is totally true?
The Right Honourable Government House Leader. Excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the Leader of the Official Opposition was put on notice on March 31st. That very same day, he deleted tweets and then edited them because he knows he should be more judicious in his words. Mr. Speaker, his actions are clear. They talk a tough game. Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Innovation had done the same thing because they made those statements in the House. When they were asked to make those statements outside the House, they would not. But do you know what happened after they were served notice in December, Mr. Speaker? The Leader of the Official Opposition retracted those comments. He deleted those tweets. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. I encourage members to try not to react to things.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister sent our leader a letter threatening legal action. In the letter, he complained that the opposition leader accused him of personally subverting the legal process to interfere in a criminal prosecution. Well, the leader has maintained what he said. So when will we go before a judge? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, yes, we put the Leader of the Official Opposition on notice because he was making misleading statements to Canadians. On March 31st, they received a notice. That same day, the Leader of the Opposition deleted his tweets. He knows that he made defamatory comments, and he knows that he shouldn't do that. So, we served him with notice so that he can make better decisions and more respectful positions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, they are trying to present an alternate version of reality here. The fact is that this refers to what happened on March 29th. There are facts that were presented in the letter, and we want to respond to them. Now, the Leader of the Official Opposition is very open to going to court right now, so let's go, Mr. Speaker. We're just waiting for that. I would remind the member that he should direct all of his comments through the chair. The Honourable Government House Leader. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The opposition leader and his party have a history of false and defamatory statements. In December, they had to withdraw some comments that had been made online about the Minister of Innovation. Mr. Speaker, once again, we have put the leader on notice because he was making false and defamatory statements to Canadians. On March 31st, the leader of the opposition deleted those tweets because he knows that he was not supposed to do that. Thank you.
Honourable member for Chilliwack Hope.
The Prime Minister now says there should be consequences for lying to Canadians. I guess he'll find out in October, but in his letter threatening to sue the Conservative leader, he says that the former Attorney General never told him that the political interference in an ongoing criminal proceeding was entirely inappropriate. But the Prime Minister admitted to this House last week that in fact she told him that directly to his face. So he says there should be consequences for lying to Canadians. When will the Prime Minister take us to court so he can experience just what those are?
I encourage members to be judicious, of course, in the words they choose in this House. The Honourable Government House Leader. Order.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate your reminder that members should be judicious in their wording, and that's exactly why outside of this chamber you're not always there to monitor the situation. But Canadians can have confidence that when the leader of the official opposition is misleading Canadians, we will not stand idly by. And that's exactly why the leader of the official opposition was put on notice. After he was put on notice, he deleted tweets. He actually edited his wording to be more judicious, just as you have reminded all members to do. This is not the first time the Conservatives have done this. They did this in December after the Minister of Innovation had served them notice. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Chilliwack Hope.
In the letter where the Prime Minister threatens to sue the Conservative leader, he says that it's a lie, that the clerk of the Privy Council pressured the former Attorney General and made it clear that her job was on the line. Well, Canadians could hear clearly on an audio recording that the clerk of the Privy Council said exactly that. Truth is an absolute defence, and every word of the Conservative leader's statement on the Liberals' SNC-Lavalin scandal is true. If the Prime Minister believes otherwise, when will we see him in court?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
I appreciate the opportunity to once again remind Canadians that all information is public. Why is that information public, Mr. Speaker? Because the Prime Minister waives solicitor-client privilege as well as cabinet confidence. All meetings of the Justice Committee members that they had on this issue were in public so that Canadians could decide for themselves. And they know very well who is misleading Canadians. That member talks a big game. But in February, when it came to comments on this file, it was the leader, his leader, the leader of the official opposition, that actually retracted that statement. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Essex.
Mr. Speaker, expulsions from caucus, shutting down debate in committees, a lawsuit, a leak of confidential information about a Chief Justice Supreme Court application, 2 months of Liberals doing everything they can to change the channel on the PMO scandal. But leaking confidential information? That is a serious breach. The Minister of Justice doesn't seem to understand the seriousness of this act. Is this Attorney General comfortable with a leak that was intended to smear the former Attorney General? The integrity of our courts is at stake. Will the Attorney General launch an investigation into this serious breach?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Obviously, Mr. Speaker, leaks concern us. I can assure this House, Mr. Speaker, that leaks did not come from my ministry, and I trust my colleagues when they tell me that leaks did not come from theirs. Mr. Speaker, this is a situation of obvious concern, and we're doing our best to make sure that it does not happen in the future.
The Honourable Member for Timmins James Bay.
Well, someone obtained confidential information on the Supreme Court vetting process to smear Chief Justice Joyal and the former Attorney General. There are political fingerprints all over this hatchet job, but the new Attorney General refuses to investigate. Why? Well, he says, hey, I trust the Prime Minister's office, and I trust it'll never happen again. God help the rule of law when we have an Attorney General who thinks his job is damage control. His job is to protect the integrity of the process. When will he launch an independent investigation into finding out who launched that leak and who ordered it?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, as I've said in this House, Canadians should have complete confidence in the integrity of our Supreme Court nomination process. Mr. Speaker, it is merit-based. It has led to the appointment of 2 exceptionally high-quality candidates thus far, as well as a Chief Justice, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, obviously these leaks are of great concern to me. As I assured this House yesterday, I am confident that these leaks did not come from my office, and the Prime Minister has assured this House that the leaks did not come from his office, Mr. Speaker.
Order. The honourable member for Lethbridge.
The Prime Minister has been caught misleading Canadians. Having been caught now, the Prime Minister is trying to sue his critics. In his letter, he disputes the fact, and I quote, "The Prime Minister had been informed by the former Attorney General that his actions were entirely inappropriate and amounted to political interference," end quote. Now, every single Canadian understands that this is, in fact, exactly what happened. So my question is this: when will the Prime Minister move forward with his threat to call a court case and get to business?
Honourable Minister of International Cooperation and Women.
I believe my honourable colleague's question's been answered, and I imagine as the critic for the status of women, she's interested in what is happening to women in Canada. I am proud to report that there are more women working in Canada now than ever before, more Indigenous people.
Order. 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 I remind members. Order. Order. I remind members that there be. A member for Lethbridge will come to order. Members need to be reminded, perhaps, that they will get other turns for questions and answers and to respond to arguments, but I think they'll want to be listened to when they're posing a question or answering a question. The Honourable Minister has the floor.
Mr. Speaker, as I was saying, there are more women working in Canada now than ever before. More Indigenous people have jobs, more persons with disabilities are working, more newcomers and more young people are working now than ever before. And part of that, my honourable critic will want to know, is because we believe that gender equality is a driver for economic growth.
Just order. I did ask the member for Lethbridge to come to order. I remind her not to interrupt when someone else has the floor. No member for Carlton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians know what is happening to women under these Liberals. The former Attorney General repeatedly said the pressure she was facing was inappropriate. Yet the Prime Minister claimed no one had ever raised concerns with him. But just last week, he was forced to admit that was false. Now he is threatening to take our leader to court for pointing out that he has been misleading Canadians. When will the court case begin so that the whole truth can come out?
The Honourable Minister of Transport.
My colleague brings up the issue of women. I want to point out that I'm extremely proud at Transport Canada that 47% of the very large number of nominations that have to be done under Transport Canada in the last 3.5 years are women.
The Honourable Member for Carlton. Order.
The Prime Minister says he's going to sue the Leader of the Opposition for saying, quote, the former Attorney General repeatedly told the Prime Minister and his top officials that their actions were entirely inappropriate and amounted to political interference. For him to sue, it would have to mean those comments were wrong. But last week, the Prime Minister admitted that it was true. How can the Prime Minister sue someone for saying something the Prime Minister has already admitted is true?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
The critic from Carleton knows that question has already been answered. What he's not asking about is a budget. Perhaps he doesn't care about what we're doing for seniors because he already has $1 million pension. But I will tell you that those seniors that are getting better off because of their ability to keep more money in their pocket, they're going to be better off in the future because of this budget. We know, Mr. Speaker, from the member from Carleton, the training benefit that we're putting in place, that might help him when he looks for his next job. That's the clear benefit to help all Canadians.
Order. Order. Now, the member for Chilliwack Hope, the Banff Airdrie will come to order. The honourable member for Banff Airdrie just showed disrespect for the directions of the chair. Does he wish to apologize right now? Otherwise, he can exit. Order. The honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot can join him if he wants to. The honourable member for Banff Airdrie.
Mr. Speaker, although I find the actions of that side completely wrong and irreprehensible, I will apologize for the fact that I did show disrespect for the chair.
I thank the honourable member for Banff Airdrie. Honourable member for Carleton. Order.
Mr. Speaker, you cannot be a lawmaker if you are a lawbreaker. And we know that the Prime Minister has broken the law, not just the ethics law that he broke by accepting gifts from someone seeking a government grant, but he broke the Parliament of Canada Act to kick 2 of his members out of caucus as part of the cover-up in the SNC-Lavalin scandal. If he's so confident that anything he said in this matter is true, when will he launch his lawsuit so that we can put him on the stand and question him under oath?
Honourable Minister of Finance.
Speaker, I think the critic from Carleton knows that that question has already been answered. And I can say that what we want to do in this House is talk about the budget that we put forward for all Canadians. We put forward a budget that's going to help young people to have the possibility to get into their first home. We put in place a budget that's going to help students to be able to retire their debt earlier in their post-student life. We put in place a budget that's going to help people to get the sort of ability to face up to a changing world with the training that they need. We're proud of what we put forward for Canadians, and we look forward to talking about it more.
The honourable member for Churchill-Kiwatinook-Aski.
Mr. Speaker, last week I asked this government to address urgent food insecurity in our north because of climate change. Well, did they ever deliver? Giving $12 million to Loblaws, a company headed up by the second richest Canadian. Liberals also gave $4.5 billion to a rich American oil company. And in the eyes of this Liberal government, it's clear that every problem can be solved by giving money to your billionaire friends. Meanwhile, First Nations already hurting from climate change get nothing. So instead of favors for their billionaire friends, when will this government stand up for First Nations and Canadians already hurting?
Honourable Minister of Environment.
It gives me great pleasure to actually talk about climate change and the action our government is taking. We're phasing out coal, investing in renewables, and have a just transition for workers. We're investing in clean solutions so innovators, entrepreneurs across the country create good jobs. We're, of course, investing in energy efficiency, and the program that which the member opposite is talking was a fair and open competition. It was based on the most emissions, the most bang for your buck. It will remove 50,000 cars off the road, and the company in question is paying 3/4 the cost. But the real question Canadians want to
Order. I ask the honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot and others not to show disrespect to other members in this House.
The honourable member for Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. When the IPCC report said we had 12 years to take action on climate change, what did the Liberals do? They bought an old pipeline. When we learned that Canada is warming twice as fast as the rest of the planet, what did the Liberals do? They put forth a budget that gave billions to oil companies. And now we learned that our glaciers in the north are melting faster than the rest of the world. What are the Liberals doing? They're giving $12 million to Loblaws for fridges. What will it take for the Liberals to take action? Will it take one of their millionaire cronies to live up north? The Honourable Minister of the Environment. I'm always happy to rise in this House and to talk about our ambitious plan on climate change. We're getting rid of coal, we're investing in renewable energies, and we have a fair transition for communities and workers. We know we have to invest in clean tech to create good jobs, and we're also investing in eco-friendly measures. And our plan is based on larger emissions reductions, and that's why we're going to eliminate the equivalent of 50 million cars, the emissions of that.
Community Housing Corporation is the largest social housing provider in Canada and the second largest in North America. Last week, the Prime Minister was in Toronto to make a $1.3 billion housing announcement, their largest federal housing investment in Canadian history. Could the Minister of Families, Children and Social Development inform this House how this record investment will provide tens of thousands of Toronto families safe and affordable homes?
The Honourable Minister.
For his hard work on the behalf of the people of Toronto. We believe that every Canadian should have a safe and affordable home, and that's why we launched the first ever national housing strategy, a $40 billion plan. No, sorry, it's a $55 billion plan because of Budget 2019. That's why we're so pleased last Friday to announce a very historic investment in the City of Toronto, helping renovate, renew, and reconstruct the community homes of 58,000 families in Toronto. And that's why we'll keep working very hard to give every Canadian a safe and affordable place to call home.
The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the ethics, corruption and political interference saga continues to unfold. After his attempts to stifle this affair and hide the truth from Canadians, now he's trying to intimidate the leader of the official opposition in order to muzzle him. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister make good on his threat as soon as possible because Canadians want to know the truth?
Canadiens reçoivent la vérité. C'est exactement pourquoi le Premier ministre a renoncé le secret professionnel et le secret du cabinet. Et les députés qui siègent sur le comité de justice, ils ont demandé d'avoir les témoins. Les témoins sont venus, ils ont fait leur témoignage.
Je m'excuse, mais je comprends que l'interprétation ne fonctionnait pas.
I thought that the interpretation was not working. It is working now. The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, to make sure that Canadians hear the truth, that is why the Prime Minister waived solicitor-client privilege and cabinet confidence. The members who sit on the Justice Committee asked to hear from witnesses, and witnesses appeared. They provided testimony, and now all these facts are public for Canadians to hear for themselves. But it's interesting because the leader of the opposition received notice last week, and as soon as he received this notice, he deleted his tweets because there's certain things he couldn't say that were defamatory. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Honourable Member for Lévis-Lotbinière. Mr. Speaker, the Ethics Committee is an excellent forum to disclose new information on this whole political interference scandal, especially since this information will be useful for the Ethics Committee in his investigation. Will the Prime Minister remove any constraints to prevent witnesses from appearing and freely expressing themselves in front of the Ethics Committee? Because Canadians still want to know the truth. The Honourable Leader of Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, to ensure that Canadians can know the truth, the Prime Minister did waive solicitor-client privilege and cabinet confidence. All these facts are public. The members who sit on the Justice Committee made decisions for themselves. That is how we work on this side of the House. But we can see that the Conservatives do receive directives from their leader of the opposition, but we know that our members can make their own decisions, and the members who sit on the Ethics Committee will make their own decisions. Thank you. Order.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has shut down every parliamentary opportunity to examine fully his attempted interference in the SNC-Lavalin corruption trial. By threatening a lawsuit, he suddenly seems to favor litigating details of his scandal under oath in a public court. Well, not really, Mr. Speaker. We know it's just a desperate ruse. But there's another opportunity this afternoon. Will the Prime Minister encourage Liberal members of the Ethics Committee to support my motion to invite him and 11 other witnesses to speak without constraint about this sorry affair?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, this matter has been addressed numerous times in this House, but I will definitely answer it once again. We do believe that Canadians should get to hear the truth, and that's exactly why the Justice Committee, the members between themselves set parameters for a discussion to ensure that the truth could be shared with Canadians. That's exactly why the Prime Minister waives solicitor-client privilege as well as cabinet confidence. Mr. Speaker, this is the first time in the history of the country that this has been done, but it's important that Canadians get to know, and that's exactly why all the facts are now public, but the Conservatives are misleading Canadians, and that's what they continue to do, and that's why they were served notice and then all of a sudden made some changes.
Order. I know the honourable member for Levy-Lubinier got everyone excited. And that's no ill reflection on the member for Thornhill, of course. But let's remember that each person has to be listened to. The honourable member for Thornhill has the floor.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has shown little regard for anyone but himself in this ever-deepening scandal. The banal excuses and empty platitudes about his respect for the rule of law and the independence of committees stand in stark contrast to the trail of resignations, removals, and character smearing left in his self-serving wake. Again, will the Prime Minister finally order his minions to stand down and encourage Liberal members of the Ethics Committee to freely vote their consciences?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, what is clear is that member is projecting. That member and his benches are minions of the leader of the official opposition. And rather than point fingers, that member should know very well that when it comes to our members, they make their own decisions. But the Conservatives cannot fathom that people don't agree with them. They have not had to endure that often, but we, within the Liberal benches, we have tough conversations. We agree to disagree, and we try to find compromise where it is possible. Mr. Speaker, it is with those policies that we know that Canadians are better off today than they were under 10 years.
Order. I don't know that I've heard of minions described as unparliamentary, but people should be judicious, and I think we should be careful how we describe each other. And there are members. Order. There are members in this House. So order. I'd ask the honourable order. The two. Order. The honourable Government House Leader and member for Thornhill will come to order. Let's have a little order. Honorable.
The honourable member for Trois-Rivières. Mr. Speaker, while Trois-Rivières is still waiting for an announcement regarding the high-intensity train, we've learned that Transport Canada will fund a feasibility study for a Canadian Hyperloop project. Yet, Transport Canada still hasn't published the results of its 2 high-intensity train studies. The Hyperloop project is decades away from actual implementation, but the high-intensity train is a concrete project. Since the minister is exploring the future, could he please go back in time in his DeLorean, go back to 2019, and tell us if he did see the high-frequency train project? The Honourable Minister of Transportation. I know that my colleague is very impatient with regard to the high-intensity train, and I tell him every week that we're working on this important file, and when we will have an update, we will provide it. we will provide it to my colleague. In the meantime, of course, we're looking at technologies of the future. We are a government that believes in science and research, and we're exploring all types of possibilities for transportation in the future.
Mr. Speaker, we found out yesterday that the Canadian Coast Guard is ill-equipped and does not have a concrete plan to deal with an aging fleet. This has resulted in, quote, reduced search and rescue coverage, ferry service disruptions, canceled resupply runs to Arctic and coastal communities, and nearly $2 million in lost navigational buoys. The government's lack of funding for the Coast Guard is leaving coastal communities at a real risk. When will the government finally make sure that our Coast Guard is properly equipped? And why hasn't the safety of our coastal communities been a priority?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Fisheries.
Mr. Speaker, the Canadian Coast Guard are at work every day across the country, and our government will continue to provide them with the tools that they need to keep Canadians and our waters safe and our economy moving. During the 2018 Arctic season, the Coast Guard was faced with unusually difficult ice conditions than in other years. It led to some delay in resupply and escort missions. Canadians can be proud of the men and women of the Canadian Coast Guard and the important work that they do from coast to coast to coast, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Abbotsford.
Well, Mr. Speaker, last year Loblaws made $3 billion in profit. Yet yesterday, the Minister of the Environment gave Loblaws $12 million to do what? Buy fridges. This money came from hardworking Canadians, seniors and low-income families who struggle to make ends meet. Now, you tell me, how many Canadians can walk into the Prime Minister's office and ask them to pay for a new fridge? Huh? How many? Why is it always the wealthy and well-connected that get handouts from these Liberals?
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford, my good friend, he seems to be asking me a question, but I think he knows he has to ask questions to the other side. The Honourable, I'm happy that members are in a good mood at least for a moment. The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I got so excited when I saw the member stand up because I thought he was going to talk about their climate change plan. It's been 345 days since they announced the climate change plan. What is our plan? We're phasing out coal, investing in renewables, providing a just transition for workers. We're investing in public transportation across the country. We're investing in clean tech companies. And yes, we're investing in energy efficiency. And this was an open tender, open to any company, organization across the country to get bang for the buck. Because guess what? Canadians want to reduce their emissions. It's only the party opposite.
Order. The Honourable Member for Calgary Nose Hill.
I'm so glad that the minister talked about her plan.
Yeah.
A plan that taxes Canadians for committing the sin of heating their homes in the winter, which will do nothing to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and then giving that money to Loblaws to buy freezers. I'm really, really good with that not being our plan. I'm proud to say we won't do that. Why is this government so hell-bent on taking from the poor to give to the rich?
Order. I had no trouble hearing the question. Order. Don't tell me it was the member for Lévis-Laubinière they're going to blame for being this excited still. I hope not. My goodness. Order. The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It seems like the party opposite wants to sticker it to Canadians like Doug Ford. But let's talk about what we are doing. We're putting a price on pollution and giving it all back to Ontarians. What does that mean? 90% of the money goes right back to families. A family of four will get $307, which is more than 80% of the families will pay. But I've got a question. The member for Milton was on television the other day and was asked, would they commit to meeting the Paris Agreement targets? She couldn't answer. Everyone in this House, except for one Conservative, voted for it. Will you?
we should have as much ease hearing the answers as we hear the questions. Order. The honourable member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
Stick it to Canadians. You know, Amanda Stevenson in Lundar, Manitoba, her dairy fridge quit last week. She's watched these Liberals take money from her in the form of a carbon tax and increase taxes on her small business. And now she had to watch them give money to her competitor for the same thing she can't afford. That is wrong. We're proud to stand for Amanda, not for SNC-Lavalin and for Loblaws. Why is this government so hell-bent on taking from the poor to give to the rich?
Hey!
The Honourable Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, why doesn't the party opposite stand for the planet? Why doesn't the party opposite stand for our children and grandchildren? Why doesn't our party opposite stand for climate action that is creating good jobs and preparing us for the future? But to the woman in Manitoba, that the member opposite is misleading, let me tell her, a family of 4 in Manitoba will receive $339, more than 80% of families will receive. We can take action on climate change, and we can do it in a way that is affordable.
The Honourable Member for Don Valley East. Order.
Mr. Speaker, healthcare is something all Canadians are proud of, and no individual should be left behind when it comes to making sure they get the services they need. Sunday, April 7th, was World Health Day, and the focus was on universal health coverage. Can the Minister of Health please advise this House on how she plans to make Canada's healthcare system even better? Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the member from Don Valley East for her very important question. On World Health Day, we celebrate universal public health care, something that Lester Pearson provided to all Canadians more than 50 years ago. We recognize that in Canada, people are proud of their publicly funded health care system, one that's based on need and not on their ability to pay. And this government wants to strengthen that. That's why we're making historic investments in the area of mental health and home care, and we've just laid the foundational piece for a national pharmacare program. This government will continue to fight for a publicly funded healthcare system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Chicoutimi-Le-Fjord. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is trying to intimidate our leader with the threat of a lawsuit. He wants to restore his credibility because his lack of leadership has caused his government to make mistakes. After hiding the truth from Canadians for months and weeks, we now have the perfect opportunity to learn everything. Let him present his evidence in court, follow through on his threat, and testify under oath. When will he do so? The Honourable Government House Leader. Mr. Speaker, this isn't the first time that the Conservative leader and his party have misled Canadians with false declarations and defamatory statements. As I've said on at least 2 occasions, he has had to delete defamatory statements against our government. The reason we have given him a notice is that because he has done so again. So we know that this is something the Conservatives keep doing, and the Conservatives must remember that this is not how things should work.
Climate leaders don't buy pipelines. Feminist prime ministers don't turf female colleagues because they speak truth to power. Humanitarian leaders don't shut their borders to asylum seekers during a refugee crisis. Now, the Liberals have snuck in changes to refugee laws in the budget bill. That means people like Sadhu Muhammad, an LGBTQ man from Ghana, whose asylum claim was accepted after crossing irregularly from the U.S., won't even get a chance to apply. Lives are at risk. Will the Prime Minister do what is right and suspend the Safe Third Country Agreement?
Honourable Minister of Border Security.
Speaker, we remain committed to maintaining a well-functioning refugee system, and that's why we've made significant investments in Budget 2019 to improve the efficiency of the IRB in holding these hearings and to bring in regulation that encourage people to use the appropriate ways of entry and to immigrate into this country. We'll continue to invest in that system, and we've achieved a significant level of success in significantly reducing the number of people who have presented themselves irregularly on our borders while maintaining a robust and efficient system of refugee determination. Thank you.
Honourable Member for Cumberland Colchester.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Canadians have a long and proud history of medical developments and discoveries like insulin and vaccines that have saved lives at home and abroad. Can the Minister of Innovation, Science and Economic Development please tell us what investments our government is making in cutting-edge research and facilities to pave the way for new medical breakthroughs and make treatments even more effective?
Good question.
The Honourable Minister of Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to acknowledge the member from Cumberland Colchester and thank him for his 30 years of outstanding service to Canadians, Mr. Speaker. He's been a strong advocate for diversifying the local economy, and he's very passionate about growing the life sciences sector, particularly in producing life-saving treatments for serious illness. That's why most recently the Prime Minister made an announcement with BioVectra for $37.5 million. This helped leverage $144.6 million, but more importantly, Mr. Speaker, 450 good quality middle-class jobs were created.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
The Prime Minister and those Liberals talk about letting members on their side of the House make decisions without direction from the PMO. That certainly wasn't the case when the Prime Minister unilaterally turfed 2 female caucus members, in the process breaking the laws of this place. We know that the Prime Minister does to people that don't agree with him. He pressures, intimidates, and then threatens them if they don't fall in line, and then he throws them out. Since the Leader of the Opposition won't be intimidated and the Prime Minister can't kick him out of caucus, the Prime Minister has threatened him with a lawsuit. Simple question, when are we going to see you in court?
Order. I know the Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes is new to the House, relatively speaking, but I think he knows the rule. The one has to direct their questions and comments to the chair. Now I think he's indicating through me. Very good. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, you should be able to confirm that you received a letter to inform you of the will of caucus on these measures, and it is up to the Liberal caucus to decide our own affairs. I would encourage that member to focus on his caucus and their caucus matters. We have caucus discussions, and we know what happens in caucus stays in caucus, but to satisfy the rules you were provided with the letter, what's clear is, Mr. Speaker, we've gone through a whole question period, and the Conservatives will continue to focus on us. Mr. Speaker, we will continue to focus on Canadians. And that's why we're so proud to be talking about the budget. We look forward to be able to share how we're going to improve the lives for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Manicouin. Mr. Speaker, the member for Montreal has finally distanced himself from the shameful statement made by his colleague, the Mayor of Hanstab, who compared government secularism to ethnic cleansing. The Minister of Justice didn't seem that it was right to condemn the statement yesterday. Will the Minister condemn the statement made by the Mayor of Hanstab and commit to not challenging the secularism bill in courts? The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, as I said yesterday, our government has always defended and will continue to defend the fundamental rights of every Canadian. We have a charter that protects the rights of all citizens. We can't choose those who we protect and those who we don't. Our position is clear. It's not up to the state to dictate what people can or cannot wear, regardless of their religion. The Honourable Member for Manicouin. Mr. Speaker, we've seen the Minister of Justice and the Attorney General read from their note sheet every time they're asked questions and recite the words written by the PMO. It says a lot about the independence of the new AG in relation to the PM. Can we please receive a clear answer to one simple question? Will the Minister of Justice challenge Bill 21 or support a legal challenge? Yes or no? They don't need to read their notes to answer that, I think. The Honourable Minister of Justice. Mr. Speaker, as I said yesterday, Canada has a Charter of Rights and Freedoms, and it's not up to the state to ban things that can be worn or not worn, regardless of someone's religious beliefs. Mr. Speaker, we have institutions to defend the fundamental rights of Canadians, and the AG and Minister of Justice, as this, I will protect these rights. The honourable member for Pointe-aux-Trembles. In 2018, roughly 28,000 asylum seekers were welcomed to Quebec. They were housed, treated, and cared for by the Quebec state. In the budget, there isn't 1 cent for the reception of refugees in Quebec. And in the Budget Implementation Act, the Liberals aren't solving the problem of Roxham. Rather than making minor adjustments, why hasn't the Minister of Immigration announced the suspension of the Safe Third Country Agreement?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to have the opportunity to acknowledge the excellent partnership that we have with the province of Quebec and the City of Montreal, and I wish to extend my sincere appreciation for that partnership and their hard work. Canada has experienced an increase in people coming to this country as a result of situations going on all over the world where people are fleeing war and persecution. And it is in partnership with municipalities and the provinces that Canada remains a welcoming country as we work to ensure that these individuals enjoy the full benefit of the rule of law in Canada, and at the same time the system is operated.
I would like to draw to the attention of honourable members the presence in the gallery of the Honourable Bill Oliver, Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure for the province of New Brunswick. Honourable member for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston is rising on a point of order or rising on a question period.
Mr. Speaker, in her response a bit earlier, the Honourable Government House Leader made reference to a piece of correspondence, a letter that she had given to you. I don't believe that the rest of us have seen this letter, but as you know and as she knows, any letter or any document that is made reference to in the House must be tabled for the benefit of all of us. So we would now like to see this letter and to determine whether or not this actually demonstrates that the Liberal Party was in fact in conformity with the Parliament of Canada Act or not. She was very careful not to make that clear in her comment, so we'd like to see for ourselves.
Merci, très bon point.
Bon point.
This order. Is the member asking for unanimous consent for this? Because otherwise I'm not at liberty. Order. I am not at liberty to disclose communications from caucus or members individually. Order. The honourable member for Lethbridge is